I've got that opportunity, and now you don't have to be a gay gym or an LGBT group to come into a gym and train. These lot ain't gay, these lot ain't trans. They've all welcomed me, they've developed me as a fighter. As a trans person, it's impossible. It's actually in the rules. Steve tried to speak to Harry and just tried to say if there was not a way in, but just if there was a way we could conversate with people. And we didn't push, because I'm not here to be like, oh, you're a trans hater. It's not about that for me. It's just about rules, following them, finding a way around it.
Can you go pro as a trans male? What's the rules?
To be honest, I don't even know, mate. I just live as a normal geezer.
So I think white collar is probably the best thing currently.
Yeah.
The awareness and get the community.
Yeah, I'm just enjoying it. The only thing I can say about being trans is I wanted to box my whole life. Even as a little kid, we all have a dream. I was always running around the house thinking that I could box when I couldn't box. I've never been in a gym. I grew up, and obviously I didn't look like how I look now. I look like a girl. I had tits. I was a girl, and well, I wasn't, but I looked like a girl. And for me to go in a gym, I knew that I would have to fight girls, and I didn't want to do that, so I avoided it. Now, I've got the opportunity now because of Steve, because of Ian Wilson, because of Adam Bailey at MTK Fuerteventura before it changed to Bailey's Gym. I've got that opportunity, and now you don't have to be a gay gym or an LGBT group to come into a gym and train. These lot ain't gay, these lot ain't trans. They've all welcomed me, they've developed me as a fighter, and now
I think it's more in terms of competition. It's really tough because your box is new.
Yeah.
You've got, and obviously you're going to be the pioneer now of trans boxing, and I'm sure in other sports you don't really see transgender groups. You see a lot of shame and hate on maybe a guy born as a guy that's turned female, fighting against women, for example, and it's horrendous because they've got the genetic advantage.
Body structure, genes.
You've got the complete disadvantage.
Well,
being born as a female genetically.
I've got to play catch up, haven't I?
And not having your own box, like you said, with Australia falling through. It must be so tough when you want to compete. You're not trying to have the edge on someone. You just want to be a part of the sport in your own competition. So what you're doing now with the communities, bringing it together, it's like women's boxing 10 years ago.
That's what I mean.
How that's grown.
Look how much it's developed now. I've got a friend that was actually a pioneer of women's boxing, Jamie Johnson, who's actually trans like me, was called Jane. Women's boxing weren't a thing, was it, Steve, before? Jamie went and done the London underground boxing circuit, went to America in the end because it was women's boxing was bigger there. Ended up in Buddy McGurk's gym, was a proper pioneer of women's boxing, and that's another person I've got to support me, to guide me, and to give me that drive, because there will be change. Because look at like you say, women's boxing now is getting massive. It's massive.
Yeah, I can remember when I had Ian Napa, he boxed England versus America, and afterwards I was talking to one of the American managers, and he was saying, he was saying to me, open up a girls section, open up, it's going to be big. It might take 10, 20 years, but it's going to be massive. Now look at next week. It's probably one of the, I'm not being fair. For me, next week was more exciting than if tonight had gone ahead. I'm really looking forward. You've got two people who genuinely hate each other, don't they? There's proper vengeance there.
Should we talk about that for a minute?
Caressa
Shields, Savannah Marshall. The grudge that they had in the amateurs.
That's right.
Like Savannah Marshall's got knockout power, which you don't always see in female boxing.
No.
And then Caressa Shields is just an animal. She puts it on people, combination puncher. She's got an engine. What do you think's going to go ahead? Like, obviously it was delayed, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was delayed, but my heart wants Savannah to win. I just think, but she's got that calm. She's got the calmness, doesn't she? She knows how to press the buttons to get her going.
She's funny, isn't she? She's funny.
Press conferences have been brilliant.
They're great, and she's got the punch that can take someone out. She's
a serious fighter.
And then you've got the other one. She just wants revenge, doesn't she? And now is that revenge going to become negative?
Is it going to drain her?
Is it
going
the
to
power
drain her?
going to go into her?
Before she gets there?
I
think it's the opposite.
Fight her out, yeah.
I think Claressa Shields, though, she calls herself the GOAT, right? But she is probably the biggest talent out there. She's up there with sort of Katie Taylor.
Yeah.
It just depends on, because she's quite aggressive. When you look at the styles, all it takes is Savannah Marshall timing a hook or a right hand, left. All it takes is that, and all of a sudden, is she going to shy off? Is she not going to box the same?
I think
is it going to get scrappy?
Yeah,
are they going to both be just having it?
Yeah, that's what I worry, is the red mist will take over. And when the red mist takes over, you lose your shape, you lose your composure, and then that's when she'll hit her. Yeah.
I hope that's not the case, because they are professionals.
Oh yeah,
of course. Yeah, no, of course. Good luck to both
she
of them.
Just presses them. She just presses them buttons, doesn't she? And I say I'm really looking forward to it. And you know, would we have said that 2 years, 5 years? Well, I don't know, probably 2 years ago. Yeah,
I've boxed women in the gym for many years, and like their technique, and it's no different to boxing a man, really. And I've always appreciated it. There's been some good girls in the gym. I spoke about Ebony Jones. She was a hardcore. She beat me up. She was good. She's fighting on the undercard of that. But the only thing I find weird that we could talk about is the 2 minute rounds still. It keeps sort of the amateur style
it does,
where they're rushed in the rounds. Whereas if they had the extra minute, you're probably going to see maybe more knockouts, a bit more time, a little bit more professional manners, which you don't get in.
You know, but I've always said some of the best fights in the amateurs, you know, it's like I've viewed some Met Police finals. Some of them have been the best fights. Have been the girls.
Steve's got
because they're technically. I've seen them where they just won't give ground. Some of them, they just stand there, and it's not just handbags at 20 paces. It's proper technical,
relentless
boxing.
pressure.
You know, I had a girl. I can't remember her name now. She was a PCSO. She came to me. I mentioned police championships. Can you train me? Yeah. She was an ex-England rugby hooker. And I thought, I'll have a little bit of a move around with her like that.
Perfect.
And she went, bang, like, oh no, I can't, like, I can't mess up. I've got to let you have a little dig back sort of thing, because I just can't let you just come at me, because you are thumping these shots in. And she didn't. She just thought sparring, and that was that. And I thought, I said to my dad, help me out in the corner. This is not going to last for, a round. I said, we get to the weigh-in, there's this other, officers weighing in, little pigtails on, and I sort of looked and I thought, oh, you just don't know what you're like.
What you're dealing with.
It ended up a bloodbath. They just stood there. I had so much, not just admiration for both of them, but so much admiration for the other girl, because I'd taken some of her shots and they were proper full-blown whacks, and this girl was taking them and giving them back. And it was one of the best fights I'd been involved in, and that was just like Met Police London Championship.
They're the best though, especially when you've got that personal touch and you know them on a personal level. That's what I love the amateur scene. I feel like the amount of women fights that have been out there, the levels though jump. So you'll go from a novice female that's had maybe up to 10 bouts, then all of a sudden you've got someone that is technically gifted. The intermediate section of female boxing is not really there. So that's the only downfall, but also that's because of their playing catch up with men's boxing.
That's right.
It's good to say though. It's good to say everyone, just being accounted for. Well, not accounted for, supported more than anything.
So, what got you into boxing? When did you actually start going to the gym? And
I started boxing initially. Like I said, it was a dream to me as a kid. Never done it. Had a couple of one-to-ones when I was little. Didn't really have the money. And then I got into support work. I had a bit of a funny life change. I was in prison 13 times by the time I was 25.
And why was that?
What's that, mate?
Why was that?
I was just a lost kid, mate, to be honest.
Girl.
I was so lost. I was just a stroppy little girl. No, I had a lot to deal with as a young person. I think a lot of people do. Home life, me, mum and dad, things at home. I see a lot too soon. And it just sent me a bit wild. But after that, I come out the other side and I thought I could put so much more into the world than this. I started support work. This is how I got into the boxing. I see a white collar thing promoted on Instagram from Pride Boxing UK, and it was like an 8-week thing where you raise funds for the underage LGBT homeless. So it's like kids that come out to their parents, and for whatever religion or preferences they have, they've been kicked out. So I went to this white collar thing, done the 8 weeks training, loved it. It was a bit intense, but obviously nothing worth doing is easy, I think, and I thrive off things like that. So I just done it.
How was the training?
Yeah, it was alright. It was good training. It was like an 8-week thing. So it's like, obviously, the people that
You
put it
can't
together.
really learn to box in 8 weeks. That's the hardest part.
No, I didn't learn nothing. I just learned that I could enter these spaces and I could have conversations with people that I might not have spoke to before. I was a bit feral growing up.
Did it grow your confidence doing that?
Yeah, this is what I mean. That's what I learned from it. I learned I can walk into these rooms, I can take part in activities that I might not have took part in before. We done that. I met Kelly Maloney. She come in for a chat. From then I got introduced to Jamie Rocky Johnson, the female boxing pioneer, who's now trans. And I just carried on really. And then actually, no, what it was, I done that, didn't get to fight because COVID struck. And then scrolling through Insta, doing my daily scroll, and I see Tom Little announce a Billy Joe Saunders camp at Fuerteventura, MTK, before it got shut down. And I thought, obviously I'd not done nothing before. I just had it all in here. I just thought, I just had it in my heart. And he was like, so many spaces available, blah, blah, blah. So I've just entered. I thought, fuck it, I've got to enter. I knew I was trans, obviously. I'd know more than anyone. And I thought, do I enter or don't I? Because obviously it's like a pro gym, pro camp. So I'd done it anyway. And then I reached out to him. Oh no, someone I know knew him and was like, Dan, he went, these lot are like proper boys. Like, you're going to go over there. Like, are you sure you're going to be all right, sort of thing? I went, yeah, I'll be sweet. Like, sink or swim. So I've gone over there. No, so I booked to go over, and one of my pals from Tenerife messaged Adam Bailey and was like, look, you've got someone coming over that's trans. Is it all right still, sort of thing? And he just went, yeah. He went, don't worry. He went, he'll get punched in the face like everyone else. And then I just felt really emotional about it, to be honest, because obviously, again, who am I? Like, I was no one. I'd not done any I'd not even had a white collar fight. But I went to the camp, met Tom Little, trained at the camp with all the boys. Some of them were like, done the ABA. Some of them were right good. John Dove, you have to look out for him. He's going to go pro soon. Scott Inch, Scotland, heavyweight, he's great. But these boys really helped me. And then I come home, and then I thought, no, I want to go back to the camp. So I went back to the camp.
How long was the camp?
I think it was only 12 days or something, the first one. And then I come back, made pals with Adam Bailey, who owns the gym. It's now Bailey's gym. It's a wicked, wicked gym. And I said, Ad, like, I don't want to go home and not keep doing what we're doing, because I felt like I was getting it. I was learning the trade, you know what I mean? I was learning to dance, and I didn't want to stop. And then he got me on the phone to Warren Barnes, who trains at Sparta. And I went straight down there. It's in Chinkford. As soon as I walked through the door, they just grabbed hold of me. Ian Wilson, Steve grabbed hold of me and just treated me like one of the boys. And then from that moment, I've been training for 7 months straight.
Yeah. I didn't know. I just thought he was a boy.
Yeah, all of them did at first, apart from Ian.
Yeah, but it was just Ian that knew. So
Steve
he said,
smashed me
jump in and just have a move around with him. And
Steve,
I couldn't work out why he kept squealing every time I went near him.
Yeah, I was like, because at first it was so new to me. I was all right on the pads and that, like everyone's all right on the fucking pads and that. But it's so
completely different when you are sparring.
When you got someone standing in front of you for the first time, I thought, fucking hell, he's about 7 foot tall. And then I got in, I didn't know Steve was Steve either. I just thought he was just someone training in the gym, and I thought, coming in. And then I got in and he started like throwing his jabs out, and I was like running away almost. It was like, you know, like when you're cooking food or something and you burn your hand on the hob, automatically your hand pulls back, doesn't it? Because your body don't want to be burnt. You're like, no. And that's what my whole body was doing with Steve. I was like, fuck off. Kept jumping.
That's a natural human reaction.
That's right.
It takes so long to condition to take punches.
And we're there now, haven't we? We're past that now. But it's been fun, and we've had a laugh. And
how long did it take for you to get used to sparring and being conditioned to taking shots?
It didn't happen overnight, I'll be honest with you. I'm not going to sit here and lie.
I would say the past month really is where you've really been
turning into a fight.
You know, with we're now at the point where I can say, I'll jump in instead of thinking,
is he all right
with him? I can now say, I'll jump in with him.
Yeah,
and
I'm all right now.
Okay.
But that's the same with anyone.
Yeah,
anyway,
it is. It's
it took me. I jumped in a fight after 3 months of never stepping foot in the gym. It was a big mistake anyway, but I thought let's have a go.
You get excited, mate, don't you? It's what you're there for.
You're not going to turn it down, fight in front of your home crowd, family turn up. But yeah, it does take a long time just to.
That was a similar thing to me. I was in the gym 2 days, and Ian went. He knew how much I wanted it. And he does this every day when he sees boxers every day, and he can see who wants it and who don't. And he sort of went, right. He went, do you want to fight? And I went, yeah. And he went, this is 2 days. I've been in the gym 2 days. And he went, you're fighting. He went, you're fighting on the 10th of February, and that's my first fight. And it was brilliant, wasn't it? We had a laugh. I got to have a move around. He didn't pair me up with someone. I'll be honest. I'm not here to sell anyone a load of bollocks. But
then also people understand that we're not all world champions. We are all at our own level. And and that to you is just as big as someone else anyway.
Mental world.
You know, people progress and they get to it. It's their world. It's the equivalent of their own world title, isn't it? It's all about achievements.
And just building.
Yeah, that's right. And what I like about training Dan, he's like a sponge. He does absorb what you teach him. You actually see him try to put it into play.
Yeah.
And there's nothing worse than going through this and seeing this person do the same thing. Dan he's really, it's like that. He's moving up, moving up.
Myself, mate. I'm enjoying it.
And it's fun. It's fun, and for me, training him, watching him progress, it's good. It shows that because we had a spar yesterday.
It's a good trainer.
We sparred yesterday, and he caught me a couple of times, and he went, "I'm really sorry," and I said, "No, that shows I'm teaching you. You have
fight.
When I don't get in with you, that's when I've really done a really good job. When I think, no, you start with someone else, not me. And he caught me a couple of times yesterday. It was a good session, and he stood his ground. Whereas before, I'm normally having to trade. He stood his ground, and we had a bit of fun in the centre of the ring. But
we do. We have a laugh. We have a laugh. I get caught. I do get caught, and I'm gonna. You don't swim without getting wet. Are you there every day,
pretty much?
Yeah, every day. Every single day, apart from when I get told to have a rest, because it's just as beneficial. But it's like that. What you said earlier when we was talking, it's the environment that keeps taking me back. At first, I kept thinking when I was sparring and that, it was one of the things where I was getting sparred and I was getting the hump with myself, and then I was thinking, do I even like box it? Because I weren't on the better end of it. I kept thinking, do I like it? Of course, I like it. I love it. I get these whacks and that, and then more and more I get them, I love it now. At first I was a little bit like, I've got it, Steve. Do you know what I mean? And it's part of it, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the progression that you'll make, no one's the finished article. No. You look at people on the telly and you'll judge them by their last performance, but they're still learning themselves. Anthony Joshua losing to Usyk, he's still learning. He picked it up at like 18.
Yeah.
So I think everyone's in their own lane, and the biggest problem of comparison nowadays for social media as well.
Yeah.
You see all these people that are really good, but they're probably looking at their phone at someone better than them.
Yeah.
Thinking, why am I not that good as? So that's the worst mindset you can have. You need to focus on you versus you, and every single time you get in the ring, you're a bit better.
Yeah.
That's all that matters.
You just got to learn it. It's definitely.
And I say to Dan, the first few fights, half a dozen fights, even if you lose them,
you're learning.
As long as you get out of that ring and think, I should have done that. It's a learning curve.
Yeah.
And it will be beneficial for you. It's great to win. It's great to win. But if you actually go, you have boys go in, bash, knock them out. What have they learned?
Yeah.
They haven't learned anything at all. It's when, we've got a lad at the gym, bang, he knocks them out. And I keep saying to him, one of these days you're going to hit someone with your best shot and they're going to grin at you.
Yeah.
Then what are you going to do? Then what are you going to do? Where's your plan B? There is no plan B at the moment. And you've win some, lose some, as long as you come out and learn something. My first fight, I hit the kid and he wobbled and I just stood there. And then he shook his head and he came back at me. Yeah. And I did that twice and I lost. And I thought, if I'd have just landed one, and I got out and I sat there and I thought, one more punch and I'd have won this. The next fight, I hit someone the referee had to drag me off of him. I was not going to stop punching
That worked
until
out,
either he was on the floor or the referee dragged me off of him, sort of thing.
Yeah, there's a really good saying, win or learn.
Yeah.
And the amateurs is all about that.
Oh, yeah.
And unless you're a professional and your record's everything, as you know, like, people shouldn't be that worried about losing.
Yeah, that's right.
Of course you will. Deep down, your pride, your ego, the fear, that's what makes you better every day anyway. But understanding that losing's fine. The people that win, like you say, let's say you win your first 10 and then you lose. Some people might not be the same fighter again when they lose that confidence.
Yeah.
So it's good
It's nice to have
understand.
a bit of balance, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's all right.
Yeah, no.
So do you want to say a little bit about Australia that fell through, and you sort of got taken a merry-go-round, didn't you?
Yeah, a little bit.
If you can explain the event. And
Right, so what it was, from the white collar thing I've done, I got a lot of media coverage being trans. A fella from Australia called Martin Stark created the World Gay Boxing Championships. He reached out to me, he wanted me to be an ambassador, introduce it to the UK so people could go and have the opportunity to compete. And obviously I was, of course, going to say yeah. I said, yeah, this is 2 years ago. I've worked as an ambassador. We've put groups on all over the UK. Obviously staying in touch with the fella constantly, weekly. We had groups on WhatsApp and all that. We've done everything. I've done everything asked of me. Obviously I've got a background, a criminal background. That was a fight in itself, trying to get through the visa and the police checks and things like that.
Australia is one of the hardest. Australia and United States, it's very tough.
Yeah, and I understand and I respect that. And we done it, didn't we? We sorted it.
Yeah,
So
still waiting to hear, aren't you?
still waiting to hear back from our the final answer, but we've done everything asked of us. Obviously, we're like 5 months away from the championships. It was set up as the world's first amateur LGBTQ boxing world boxing championship. So it was a massive thing to me, and it was a massive thing, I suppose, to everyone else around the world.
So what does the Q stand for?
Queer.
Okay.
I think, yeah. Something like that.
Because it keeps changing.
Yeah, everyone keeps adding a letter on, don't they? But yeah, no. So that's basically what it was. It was the world's first amateur. Done the ambassador bit, done the training. I had to stop the ambassador bit, start turning into a fighter. So I lost my. Not lost anything, but we didn't have as much contact because I was being a fighter. We'd done everything we had to do, and then it just sort of fell through our end because where it's the world's first amateur competition, then obviously it gets to the point where I'm with Steve. Steve knows the ins and outs of boxing, and his first question was, well, if it's an amateur boxing championships, you're going to need an amateur affiliation card. And obviously that's impossible in this country. So from that minute
as a trans person, it's impossible.
As a trans person, it's impossible. It's actually in the rules.
I think it was 9.17 or something.
Yeah. Right. So we couldn't. So we couldn't do that. So that was like our first hurdle. Steve tried to speak to Harry and just tried to see if there was not a way in, but just if there was a way we could conversate with people
change
and change the
body.
way things work. Yeah, which was obviously again a bit of an ask, and we didn't push because I'm not here to be like, oh, you're a trans hater. It's not about that for me. It's just about rules, following them, finding a way around it.
Before we go any further in the podcast, I would just like to thank the proud sponsors of Notjustboxing. Notjustboxing is proudly sponsored by Titan Boxing. Titan Boxing is a UK fast-growing boxing business. They do personalised gloves, pads, T-shirts, everything. They've got UK free shipping. Go check them out with the link on screen. Gymfluencers.com are proud sponsors of Notjustboxing. They are the premier health and fitness website. There you can find supplement discount codes, freebies, giveaways, a macro calculator. There's all sorts on there. So go check them out at gymfluencers.com. or check out their @ on Instagram at gymfluencers.official.
But we, what did we do? We spoke to the fella. Yeah,
we had a Zoom meeting with Martin. Obviously, my concern was was I going to be allowed to go over there?
Yeah.
With a pro coach, yeah, and also this registration thing. Pro coach, and I wanted to know what the format was. And that's when he said that New South Wales, Australia were going to be officiating, which then rung alarm bells, obviously, on the registration side. And he said, I'll find out about your licence. And then, he came back and said everything's going to be fine. But I like to see I's dotted,
not verbal.
T's crossed. I like to see everything. I'm not going to travel all the way to Australia and then be told no. So we made our own, I made my own inquiries, and it actually escalated up to Australia Boxing. And they sort of said, they're going to get involved now. And they said we had every right. I had every right to be concerned, which again rung alarm bells for me. What's happened. There was no trans policy, and there still isn't. They've just. Well, you spoke to Martin last week.
Yeah.
They've just submitted the trans policy.
This is 4 months away from the championships. It's not great for us.
We got to register with combat sport. They won't accept a medical, even if we follow the combat sport medical here. They still want us to have a medical over there. So we're not obviously going to travel there, pay
the other
out,
side of the world,
and then find out that Danny's. I've had boys in amateurs. They've failed the medical. They're fit. They've never had a problem. That he wasn't aware of this problem, and God forbid. But that we fly all the way over there, and you fail medical, and you've asked for sponsorship and everything. So it would mean, I asked for Martin. He did. He sent through all the criteria. So we still plan to have the medical here, and then everything's fine. Go and have the medical over there. We had to register with an organisation called Combat Sport. So everything seemed okay.
But then we didn't get a link. We got told the information, and there wasn't any direct links. There wasn't any direct.
Well, my main concern is that we're dealing with this. It's a world championship. So we started training properly.
I'm training my back out. I'm breaking my own legs.
And
you know what I mean?
Obviously, it's like a box cup scenario in my eyes, 0 to 5, maybe 6 to 10, and then 10 plus, or some other sort of formula with your weight categories. We need to know, we've got Paul O'Neill. He does all the pros, nutritionists. We're doing this probably. Paul says he can come down to 57 quite comfortably. He's currently sitting at 64. He's come down from 75. So it's all coming down now. He's getting stronger. He's not having problems with his weight. And there's no point us bringing him down, to 57 if there's no other competitors, say, under 63. So we've asked, can you tell us, we don't want names, there's 4 people in that category, 3, and then we can come down to that weight. We don't know. And I said to Dan, and then we see there's Qualty, who's the Ghanaian Commonwealth captain, 95 amateur fights and 5 pro fights. He wants to enter, and I think, well, who's going to fight? Who's going to fight him?
You are.
Yeah,
and then,
do you know what I mean?
And now they're talking about having matchmakers and guaranteeing 2 fights, and if there's no people there, you can do open sparring sessions. And all of a sudden, the thing sort of disintegrates. It's not a world championship. It's a nice get-together, which is a great concept. So the whole thing, and don't get me wrong, Martin, as the website, he's worked very hard from it. And maybe it's because of maybe he's just not had lack of entries, or I don't know. I'm not going to comment because I'm not going to.
You shouldn't create a competition if the rules aren't already set.
Yeah,
if you're going to have someone that's trans in an amateur competition when trans people can't compete in amateur.
Thank you,
yeah. It's meant to be a fun weekend. Well, how can a fun weekend travelling halfway around the world?
And it's a lot of money, and I can't have conversations with sponsors if I don't have the answers to their questions, and it just got too much too soon.
So and you go there and have an open sparring session. Well, we could have sparred at Chinkford. There's no benefit.
I'm sure no one will want to come over from Australia to have a little 2-minute sparring. And that's not me being rude.
So anyway, Danny was very down. He got very down when things started to not look good. And that's when Harry stepped in, Harry Bazran, and said, well, let's put our own one on. I've put white collar shows on.
Well, he does great shows as well. He does.
Let's do a European. I've been to Harry's shows, really good shows, very professional. He even had two dwarves fighting, brought the house down,
He has a right laugh.
I'd pay to see that.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
it was
Yeah,
great.
yeah, it's
It was
right
a great, but apart from that, the other bouts have been good. The whole thing, the venue. So he straight away
Jumped right on it. Didn't
jumped
he?
on it, and within about a day, he'd found two
About-
venues in
about
Brighton.
half hour.
Yeah, within half hour he'd been onto the PBA.
And Brighton's obviously the home of.
That's
their,
right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
we're gonna-
brilliant.
Yeah,
it's gonna be
so,
great.
we as I say, we got a meeting on the 15th. We don't know. We're feeling very positive, and of course it's all down to entries. But I think you've probably got more chance of people in Europe jumping on the ferry coming over to box our
And white collar,
weekend.
there could probably be a prize as well, maybe for
that's
Yeah,
some
like, it'd
things.
be a bit of fun for
yeah.
everyone. you know?
Incentive.
That's
Yeah.
right. So fingers crossed. We you know, as I
getting
say, Australia. We wish it all well, but it's
Definitely.
just too far
It's too much to ask of
with
us.
the possibility of sparring session.
So, how many people for you are in your category as a trans male around your weight and experience? Have you got many people on paper that you've already seen?
Do you know what? There's a few in the UK. There's a couple. I think there's there's Jill.
Gil, yeah.
Jill. I don't know his second name. He's a French guy. He trains at, is it Rathbone?
Yeah.
I think he trains at Rathbone ABC. He's a good fighter. He's making his way through. He's trying to sort of make changes and developments and awareness, really, just on trans fighters. He's been told he has to. He's been told he can't compete basically in the amateurs, so he's trying to. I'll leave that to him, but he's trying to basically make a way through. I don't know if
Could
he
that
is my
could that
weight.
be a potential opponent for you?
Yeah,
Could be, yeah.
So
Everything's a possibility. There's a
it's
few.
dipping your toe, isn't it?
Do you know
That's
what we have
we're doing.
done? I'll tell you what I have done. This is quite funny. So when I started boxing and I got to Sparta and I got with Steve, there's a pro trans fella in America called Patricio, and I thought maybe me and him could have a bit of a dance at some point. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, I hadn't even thought at this point. I was just living the dream. But with me, whatever I say, I'm not just saying it. I create, and I don't know how to do it, but I do. And I thought, fuck it, I'm messaging him, and I just said, "How you doing?" Like, obviously, I'm brand new. He's a pro, but he's been a pro for 3 years, and he hasn't fought for 2. So by rights, in a year's time, who's to say we're not on par? You know, I train every day. I don't care what I sound like. You got to have that dream, haven't you? But there's the pro in America. That is just a dream for me.
So can you go pro as a trans male? What's the rules?
To be honest, I don't even know, mate.
don't
I just live as a normal geezer. I don't. I know we're talking about the LGBT stuff now.
So I think white collar is probably the best thing currently.
Yeah,
to
yeah,
get the
and
awareness
definitely.
and get the community.
Yeah, like, I'm just enjoying it. If I'm honest, I'm 35 years old.
But you do want competition.
I want to
That's
compete.
that's what you're in there for.
Yeah, yeah.
And
What-
and I
we
say
could-
he's not even interested in trans. He'll
fight-
box men. You know.
box men. Yeah.
But that disadvantage, are you taking TRT since the transition and things?
Yeah,
Are
I
you,
take testosterone every day.
But are you like, obviously you're only getting like
Monitored.
natural levels.
Yeah.
What's that squared up to a regular like bloke or male?
So what it is, like, for people that are going to be watching, because they're probably going to think, what the fuck?
We haven't got a clue.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't have a clue either until I got there and realised I was a trans person. It's mental. I was like a little geezer bird before. You know, like when you get the girl at school that's better at football than everyone else. I was that girl, do you know what I mean? But yeah, so I transitioned. I take testosterone every day. I was on injections at first. I was taking 4 mil. So it was like I was halving it, doing 1 in each bum cheek every 11 weeks. So it was like an 11-week cycle, but I'd go to the doctors every 3 months and I have to have blood tests to make sure that I'm staying within the human range. So I am monitored. So even though people say, oh, he takes testosterone, he might have...
It's no different to
No,
natural
I'm on
testosterone.
I'm being sort of using you lot as a template. Do you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
but where I smoked when I first started my transition, this is like 7 years ago, they said to me, Dan, you're going to end up with a blood clot because obviously the testosterone in the smoke is no good.
What's that all about?
It just creates blood clots, I think. I'm not going to lie and say I know because I don't. But it's just not healthy, obviously. So what I do now, I just take the gel every day. I don't smoke like I did at all. So, but I'm on that. I'm on the daily administration. I have to take 4 pumps. 16.2 milligrams.
So what, you just rub it on your arms?
Yeah, just rub it on the bottom of my back every day when I get out of the bath, and away I go. It's like a 24-hour effect. But I don't feel like I don't feel under-advantaged. I don't know if that's my character though, so I'm not going to speak for the majority of trans people. But I feel, what do you feel? I'm quite strong.
Yeah,
I'm stronger than I look.
You know, I take him on the pads, and I wouldn't say that his punching power was any less than anyone else who's at 64 kilos. You know, I don't think, he could punch harder.
I'm quite hard.
Yeah, he's quite a hard punch, to be quite honest.
Yeah, like, I feel like, and I'm not saying it because I'm shouting the mic in front of you and people listening. I'm going to say it. I'm probably stronger than I can throw a better punch than most fellas.
Yeah, if I hadn't, you know, if he hadn't have told me, I'd be sitting here now thinking I was having an interview with, you know, just a bloke.
Yeah.
You know, I've not seen any difference at all.
Yeah. I don't over-administrate. I don't play with supplements. I don't mess about with anything really. I just take my daily thing.
It's good that you obviously you're tested where it's all within the natural range.
Yeah, you've got
that anyone that's sitting home watching, well, they take testosterone.
Yeah,
as soon as you have the understanding that it is like normal levels.
And for Paul, it's been interesting for Paul for the nutritionist, because obviously
Paul O'Neill,
you know, he does all his testing on him, and when he was saying that females, they hold on to fat. And he didn't know how the drugs and hormones was all going to work. So what he did was he pitched in the middle to see where
I'm losing it quite quickly, isn't it?
And it's so for
so
Paul,
are you a study case for him right now as well?
Well, we think he hasn't said, but we think if you're watching Paul, we know.
That's good.
Yeah,
because
I'm a little guinea pig to him. Yeah, I reckon on the slide.
It sets the route for a lot of other people.
You know, if you look at Paul, I don't know if you've heard of Paul O'Neill, but if you
it rings a bell.
Yeah, he's working with
everyone.
travelling around. Hamza, he's with a lot of top fighters, girls as well, but. I say with Dan, I actually asked him, because I said to Dan, you know, I just wonder if you are a bit of a sort of a conundrum to him, and we asked.
Bit of a task, bit of a challenge.
He said, yeah, it's interesting.
Because when I've had female boxers on things like we spoke about the menstrual cycle and everything else, and how the hormones, you can't lose weight at certain times in a month.
Oh, really? I don't even know. See?
Yeah. So for females, it can be very tough, and you'll peak over the month with your hormones at certain times, and there'll be times when you have lots of water weight, and the struggles that they go through as a male, you will never know unless it's there. So it's quite new. But in terms of someone that's transitioned, with your basic genetics still there, no one still really knows, or you probably don't know your body correctly. So having Paul do the tests, and
it's really handy. Like he's really teaching me a lot about my own body. He's clever, and he's really good at what he does.
I love learning about my own, but it's good to know what your body does, why
when
you do it.
When you can see the changes from what you're doing, simple little things, even water, like just loads of different like little bits that really sort of make changes. Now I had Steve taking pictures of me yesterday. I thought I was like halfway to I don't know.
Yeah. But I say boxing's changed because it's more scientific now. Well, you know, when you know, you just get a sweatsuit on, get running, do this, do that, train hard, cut your food down. And now, you know, when Matthew Chandler turned over, I had him as super featherweight as an amateur, turned over, and I just thought, we do that again. But I knew he was too small for it, and we got Paul involved, and straight away he said, no, I can get him super bantamweight straight away. And I thought, well, that's a big job sort of thing, and then suddenly I started feeling Matthew, the weight was coming off, he was getting stronger at a lighter weight, punching harder, and you know, we were coming down to super fly in the end, you know, from super featherweight where he looked pretty well built amateur, and Paul and yeah, I was a bit suspicious. I'm thinking, you know, what's going on here? You know, is this right? The way we're dropping this weight, and Paul's got everything. You know, he's very calm, and I try. I was like the swan. You know, I was like being calm, and my feet were like thinking, right. And he has all these graphs, and he shows you everything, and you think, oh, and you're stuck at this weight, stuck at that weight, and then suddenly it just comes down.
Yeah, I feel stuck now.
Yeah, and it just comes down just before, and then the final week you go into your test weighs for, the championship test weighs, and it just goes bang, bang, everything
It's come
just
a long way.
slots, everything just slots in, and bang, they make the weight. They're not, well, I can remember Ian Napper when we fought Jason Booth for the British and Commonwealth, and I'd seen Jason Booth on the TV, and we were at the weigh-in, and I'm sort of looking around thinking, well, where's Jason Booth? And they announced Jason Booth, and this bloke sort of stands up. I thought he was a little old man in the corner, and he weighs in, and I sort of looked, makes 8 stone, whisks off. Obviously, we was the challenger. We're in the corner. I'm looking, and then I look as if it's like Man Mountain walking, and I said, that can't be and he's just blown back out again like that. Them days of
You can put on about 15 pounds in 24 hours. It's
when we had
insane.
Jason Matthews used to put on a stone overnight, easy a stone overnight without, he used to weigh in middleweight, and God knows what he was the next night.
Yeah.
And that was not never Jason Matthews. There was no sweating down. It was all naturally hard training. But then, boom, he just used to
Eat loads.
drink. He used to drink more, but it was never about. We never ever. I'm totally against drying out. He just blew up. When he weighed in, he was like Mr. Universe. Every sort of sinew was showing on his legs and everything, and then boom.
Well, it's a bit like tonight that was cancelled. Obviously, the rehydration clause for Chris Eubank Jr.
Yeah.
He could have got seriously hurt.
Yeah.
Against obviously Conor Benn that's been on whatever PEDs.
Yeah, he's took liberties doing that.
It's for him to be on a rehydration clause, like let's say Chris Eubank goes in there and he's not 100%, which is probably going to happen. He could have been seriously hurt, like both of their fathers have.
Well, I think
horrendous.
now you find out that the test results were known a while back.
2 weeks ago.
And Chris Eubanks was in the paper, wasn't he, senior, saying, I don't want my son to be fine.
And he had all that stick,
Everyone was thinking he was
aggression,
talking
do you know what I mean?
trying to hype it up for the fight, and actually he obviously knew what was going on.
And he already lost a son to a heart attack, and
Don't want to lose
he's-
another one, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and Nigel and Senior have both really hurt guys, life-changing injuries. So they should know better than anything else. And the fact that Nigel's been close with Conor this whole camp, and it's blatant that he's hit all these PBs and he has been on whatever PEDs. Like, for him and his dad to do that after what his dad has done in his career is outrageous.
Yeah, it's not cool, is it?
And the amount of boxing fans that are trying to give him the benefit of the doubt, this drug that he's got in his system isn't a random thing you get caught for in your food or whatever. This is a serious drug that people take at the end of a cycle. And he was going to do serious harm tonight. So I'm so glad it got called off.
I felt gutted. I said to Steve, I was becoming a right fan of Conor. Like, I loved his work ethic. I loved the way he trains. He's hungry for it. And he was someone that I'd speak to Steve about, and I'd say, how he does the pads where he sustains the attack, comes back out, all them little things. Then to hear that he's done this, he just kicks you in the throat, mate. It just makes you feel like look how many kids look up to him as well. I feel he could well have just ruined his career here.
Yes.
Do you know
I think
what I mean?
he should.
Yes.
I think he should. I think the Border Control should actually let's see how strong they are now.
Like, it's not.
There's too much money involved.
That's right.
And this
it's
is
money.
the frustrating
because
thing.
if this had been a lower,
It needs to be about the boxing, though. That's what it needs to be
If
about.
this had been a fighter lower down on the card, there'd be no two ways about it. He'd be out the door, and that'd be it. So it'd be interesting to let's see how strong the Board are now.
And what's crazy is all of the undercard. Like they could have salvaged this. They could have got Chris Eubank Jr. in the last 2 weeks, another opponent.
That's right.
And all of the people that have spent money
Hotel
on
trains, it's outrageous.
We were saying it, weren't we?
I think how Eddie Hearn's handled this, he's one of the best promoters, and I have a lot of respect for him. But how he's handled this situation is disrespectful to all the fighters involved.
I've had to switch off to it all just because I can't keep up with who's saying what and doing what. I've been on Steve's phone about 300 times a day. Like, what's happening, Steve? Like,
I'm trying to bring a bit of humour to it in some sense, just to get over it. But I'm frustrated for for Chris, for boxing fans, for the integrity of the sport has
it's
been
insulting.
exposed.
It's an insult, isn't it? It's a massive insult as well. And Conor had such a big opportunity. He wouldn't have got that opportunity with anyone else.
And you do think he was scraping wins against journeyman a few years back, and now all of a sudden he's blowing out Chris Van Heeren and all these big names. Chris Algieri, obviously, he's had great knockouts. So for him a few years ago to look subpar, look like an average fighter, to now be in nearly world class, it is blatantly obvious.
It's a shame because he did work hard before. I feel
he still has worked hard. He's just cheated.
He's just cheated himself though more than anything. Because where does he go from here? Where does he go from here?
He shouldn't go anywhere.
4-year ban, I think.
Yeah.
At least bring him back past his prime. At least. How old is he now? What is he? 26?
He ain't that old, is he? No.
But then also, this is a great chance for them to reform some of the UCAD and VADA testing. I think it needs to be more frequent, and VADA are the best out there. Yeah, it needs to be more strict. Yeah. And then there's arguments saying that it's a voluntary thing, and this isn't. They all volunteer for it. Yeah. He's just been caught at a bad time. Yeah. And you can try and listen to their camp and whatever they're trying to salvage the argument for. It's black and white. You either took it or you didn't. Yeah. And traces of it, people think, oh, it's only traces. No.
That meant it was there, mate. Yeah.
People need to understand.
You can't argue it, can you? So it's just a shame. And like I say, I was a massive, massive fan of Conor Benn. I was getting buzzing for him. I'd talk about him fucking every other day, and now I just feel like you can't argue with what's right, with what's wrong at the end of the day. But more for him though as well, because he's just let himself down massively, isn't he?
And his last two opponents are now also saying, what about us? Something's not right here.
Who's to say they weren't? Who knows? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see what this second test is, but I don't think it's going to be any different.
Well, what's the chances that B sample can easily be tampered with, there's so many ways that they can cover this, just like they've covered so many drug cheats in the past. Yeah. And again, it's a shame on all the clean fighters out there must be thinking, what about me? Yeah. I had a message. Have you heard of the Ginger Rocket, Jamie Robinson?
Oh yeah. He's at Hoddesdon,
Yeah. So he just lost the English title fight against Billy at the start of the year. Okay. Very close fight. But he had testicular cancer. Right. He's had all the surgery and that, but he can't produce natural amounts of testosterone now and things. And a good friend of his messaged me straight away saying he doesn't take certain supplements and certain things because he doesn't want to be caught by the British Border Control.
Oh, bless him. So he's just going out and putting himself right through it as well. Bless him. Massive respect to him.
Yeah, he's fighting tonight actually, but he's at that disadvantage. And he's doing his absolute best, and he's a great fighter. He's brilliant, really good.
He's the boy from Hoddesdon, isn't he?
He's somewhere. It could be somewhere in London.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
I reckon. Yeah. I don't know what gym. So
yeah.
I'll look out for him. I like that though. I like that. So he's fought through that. He's fought through the illness, and now he's carrying on. How cool is that though?
Yeah, seriously, the amount of respect for him and for him to come short last time, but he's a very good domestic level fighter. Yeah. And imagine if he had all the stuff that Conor Benn was taking, it'd be Eddie Hearn's next cash cow, It's just a shame how the sport's going. You see how the UFC used to be. Did you ever watch MMA like sort of 5-10 years ago? These guys were ballooned up. They were knocking people out for fun, and then they cleaned it up.
Right.
And now the UFC, they can still have TRT and stuff in there. It's all natural levels. It's all modulated really well, regulated. But that's now the clean side of the sport, and boxing's becoming a joke. You've got
to keep it clean, man.
Yeah.
Well, I was a bit worried. I thought that was going to take over from boxing because you was having proper tough fight. No one was ducking people. And whereas this, there's all these championships, people duck, won't have him run. We're still waiting for AJ and Fury, aren't we? And it's down to barristers and everything stopping people, or sponsors stopping fights from going on now. I was seriously getting worried that the UFC was just going to take over and boxing was going to get forgotten about.
I think it sort of still is.
Yeah,
it is. Like in terms of the show and media coverage. Like have you ever seen the Embedded series on the UFC?
No.
So the week of the the build up to the fight, they have these like vlogs. So you're in the fighters' lives. You've got someone, it's not even a ranked MMA fighter, there's part of the UFC. Right. And you're seeing them do the ice baths, they're with their family, they're walking the dog, they're training. You're seeing them as a person and a human being, and you buy into them. It's amazing. And they build it up through the week, and you see all the world champions and all the gyms going and the hard work. And then you get the fight night. So they really set the scene, and it's amazing coverage. And then in boxing, unless you're like a Canelo and you can, or like Make the Days Count was really good with Eubank Ben. So that was really good. But you have to be at the top of your level to get that type of coverage. So I would love to do with this.
That's what I was going to say now. This is what I mean with you, with what you're doing. I've told so many of the boys like that I've met along the way in different gyms about you, and that you're giving people platforms to speak. And I said that I'd introduce you, I'd throw a few names at you after. But I just think it's nice, Dave, isn't it nice? Because it is since I've started boxing, obviously I used to watch it, but since being in the gym, I've realised how much it is hard work. Like, it ain't easy at all, is it? And I feel like everyone should get that credit, you know, win, lose or draw, or how many times you train.
Boxing's that pyramid, isn't it? You know, the pyramid, there's that top little triangle where they're earning mega bucks.
Hundreds of millions.
Then you've got that middle section, which is good domestically, and you think, oh yeah, he's British champion, but he may only fight twice a year, and he's still got to go out. Probably still got to go out to work and everything. Then you got there's probably another section which is your selling tickets, and then you got your journeyman. Sometimes journeymen are earning more than that middle domestic.
They do
British level. You know, I remember years ago. You know, very rarely got to see. We was on a Frank Warren show at London Arena, and you know, Jason Matthews had absolutely hammered the life out of this kid. And he actually, rather than dressing rooms, it was just a big lounge that opened up. And I was talking to him. I said, you know, what makes you do it? I said, you know, I'm saying this in a respectful way. It's the first time I've actually had the opportunity to talk to a journeyman. And he said, you know, I left school with nothing, boxing. He said, I own a car lot. He said, and at the end of the year, he said, I hope to do one more year and open up a car showroom. He said, what I do in the morning at the moment is I come home, put the bag down, wife washes it. I'm at the car lot. I might get a phone call, you know, and get the bag and off I go. But he said, I want an actual showroom at the end of it. And I would never, he said, I own my own house now. Would never have got it. And I thought, you know, there's people out there with belts around their waist still
renting and have nothing. We
have nothing. And you know, I always remember the John Kingsley was a cutsman. I said, how many fights do you reckon you have, son? About 20. And he went, 20? He said, if I don't have more than 35 to 40, I'd be disappointed. Jesus, you're getting like, you know, and even if you're, you know, copying, you know, I think a good journeyman's probably copying at least 1,500 every 2 weeks.
They've still got to pay coaches and fees and stuff themselves. But my respect for journeymen.
But they're working. You know, I had Dylan Draper. He was working as a bricklayer and then copying a nice little wedge on a Saturday as well.
But also, you're putting your health at risk, though, as a journeyman. And all
it
takes is that one good prospect.
Oh, yeah. That's right, but they learn to survive, don't they? They survive.
And move around, they call it.
You get some good ones, though. You do get some good journeymen and all, didn't you?
We saw, so last Friday we're at York Hall, and it was good. We were meant to do videography. We got told last minute we couldn't do it. That was a bit of a nightmare because obviously I hired a videographer and everything, and all went, pretty down the pan.
So what was that, the Ben Jones English title?
Yeah. But one of them, so this guy Joe Giles, have you heard of him?
No.
So he was 3-0, good amateur, really good guy, but he got completely mismatched. It was against this guy that weighed in overweight. He was noticeably bigger, and this guy stopped him in like under a few rounds, and it was so hard to see. But like that journeyman, whoever this guy was, he came to win, and everyone that was meant to be there to guide Joe on his path let him down. You know, his manager, his coach, all these people, they should have realised who they put him in with so early. There's journeymen for a reason, and the respect for all of these guys is huge because
of course.
they are the stepping stones for these guys. And without them, boxing would be nothing.
And they are tough men. You know, tough men. They you know, and you know, we've had a couple of them give when Liam Dillon give him a hard time, and one of them said, "You stared at me." You know, he said, "You stared at me," and I thought, "Why well, don't stare at me like that. And he actually came. He was like, if there was a kitchen sink there, I think he'd have hit Liam with a kitchen sink as well, sort of thing. And it was a real proper tear up. And he said, he came and apologised after. And he said, sorry, mate, I was sorry about it. I know, like, it's meant to be, you know, just have a good sort of session. He said, but you just looked at me in a certain way. And I thought, no, you're not going to look at me like that.
It's funny.
That is good, because some of these I've seen some pro fights, and some of these journeymen could beat these prospects
some
early
can,
on.
man. Yeah.
And again, you're seeing how sort of corrupt it is.
Yeah.
These guys, I saw one of them, I won't name him, but he was winning comfortably, and then he had a little tick in his brain, like, oh wait, I can't win. And you just see him go against the ropes, tuck up, and just let the guy throw some shots, and you're like, man, this is not right. But that's the sport.
And I think
people don't understand that.
Yeah, I think, you know, when we had Sky Show every single Saturday, you started to see our, I'm not going to say corrupt, but our people were getting padded records, and our people started to get bored of it, because you knew before the fight who was winning.
It gets predictable, doesn't it?
So now I think the fact that it's slimmed down a bit, it's sort of getting a bit regenerated.
Yeah.
But I think it got a bit stale sort of in the early 2000s, late 90s, when it was every single week, and it just got too much, too predictable.
Condense it.
Yeah.
Well, the good thing now, so there's a lot of good small hall shows, like the one last week, there were 3 title fights. This guy, Jordan Perkis, it was his 5th fight, Southern Area champion. He had a 10-round war with this other guy that had way more experience than him.
Yeah.
And it was a great fight to watch. And you just think,
well.
that's his 5th fight. And he won. But every time that you thought he was going to knock this fella out, the guy just come back every single time.
Yeah.
And you just, it was exciting. It was like the whole of York Hall was screaming for him. Wicked. And that it's so good. But then the coverage of these guys, again, this is like, this platform can be so much more as I'm working on, but the coverage of these guys, they're great talents, they're taking risks.
Yeah.
You know, they're not choosing the easy route. Martin McDonough won by knockout. He was losing the fight, I think, against Conor Marsden, who's a good boxer, and got a knockout in the last round. But Martin's taken risks in his career early on. He lost to Harlem Eubank, who's an amazing fighter. So hats off to even taking that fight. Yeah. And he also lost to Danny Darko in a title fight, and he had noticeably the man's strength, and it was levels to the game, and Martin wasn't ready for it, but he took the challenge.
He had to go. He had to go, mate. That's what it's about, isn't it?
And the thing is,
hats off to him.
There's some fights of the season on these shows, and they just don't get the recognition because it's not televised. People don't see it. You know, I had Matthew Chander versus Duke Mika for the Commonwealth title, and it was barnstormer, 12 rounds. The Board of Control said that is fight of the year, but no. Did you get fight of the year? No, you didn't even get a mention. And if you got, and this is again about the Board of Control. These small hall is the grassroots. It's not just about the big shows. You know, I've worked with Steve Goodwin now for 6 years. He puts a great show on. He's a great. I'm not going to say great when he isn't. He's a great promoter. He's honest. You sit down and you say X, Y, and Z, and he'll say to you straight away, we can't do that at the moment. Blah blah. He'll give you perfect reason why, and then when he says he's going to deliver something, bang, he delivers it straight away. And these promoters, you know, if he could get a TV deal, you know, he'd be pushing a lot of the other promoters as far as I'm concerned.
Why are they not? Because you look at Channel 5 tonight.
Yeah.
Sam Eglinton's a good fighter, obviously, but Channel 5, a lot of the boxing it's not good.
No.
And you do have these good small hall promoters, like even TM14. I've been to 2 of their shows now. Both shows have been great. Yeah. They deserve more media coverage, and even when we tried to turn up, it got slapped in our face because there's so many dinosaurs in boxing. There's so many wrong people in the management and everything else that they want to keep it how it is so they can keep their income, and it's a safety net. Yeah. Whereas it needs to progress. If it doesn't progress, boxing's going to die out
in a positive way as well, like what you're doing.
But it's not positive for these people
No,
that are
Positive for
making
you.
a living off other guys.
It's
No,
like
no,
a closed.
positive
It's
what
a
you're
closed
doing.
shop. It's a closed. Years ago, it used to be Mickey Duff, didn't it? And Frank Warren had to get a circus tent because he couldn't get a venue in London and things like that. It was like a mini mafia, wasn't it? And
had
then
to
it
be
sort
in.
of then it sort of expanded out. But now those people are sort of holding onto it.
It's ruining the sport, isn't it?
Yeah,
It
yeah.
really
And I
is.
say that when you go to some, Steve Goodwin shows, they're so professional. I don't know if you've ever been one.
I need to go. No, I haven't.
You'll call big screens and the boys' faces up and videos of him. The music actually played on time for the entries. I'm not going to say what, but I've been a big promoter. I went to his show and the music starts when they're just about climbing up the steps to get in the ring, and it stops. And I was quite shocked by how sort of poor sort of production it was, and I do think the production is part of the audience participation and to get the crowd going. And York Hall, well, I don't think there's a better venue that, when York Hall's, even for the amateurs, when they used to have the North East Division Championships there and London finals there, you won't get a better venue. The crowd on that balcony leaning over.
York Hall's the one,
It's
isn't it?
proper sort of Colosseum stuff, and it's a great atmosphere there. But again, you don't get any sort of coverage for these people. And these boys are selling, they're selling tickets. The promoters, they've got to sell so many tickets. And yes, rightly, it's not a charity they're running. They're putting a show on. They've got to try and, we know they've got to make some money. Otherwise, they're not. Why are they in the business? They've got to make money. But likewise, you want the boys to make money. And I do feel sorry for these. And it's going to get harder, isn't it? Not being funny, gas bills, this, that, and the other. These boys have still got to try and sell tickets, and you worry about grassroots actually starting to dissolve away again because just money is so tight for people.
Yeah, well, cost of living, paycheck to paycheck. You'll hear British champions still living paycheck to paycheck, and you are relying on every last sponsor. You've got scaffolding companies that no one's ever heard of, just paying for their food to put on the table, and that's just in the hope of they get their break.
Yeah.
And how many people get their break at the end? Not many.
Yeah.
So I think promoting them from the start and having a good platform like this, it needs to grow, because there's so many good talent. There's so much talent out there that won't sell.
Yeah.
If you can't sell tickets, like Mikey McKinson, he didn't make money for his first 10 fights. If you can't sell tickets,
What are you
like,
doing,
then you can't do it. It's like
You need a bit of help to sell the tickets, though, like you say, with a bit of promotion behind you. It helps, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It helps the boys.
I haven't. I've not taken money off of fighters because, they sell their tickets. Let's just say 500 quid. Gives me 50 quid. Like,
It drives me mad.
I'm not even going to fill my car up for 50 quid now. So he might as well have the 50 quid to help him out for the next training. And I don't know. I don't know where it's going to go. It's quite. It's not scary, but I feel it's quite unfortunate for these boys, as you say, real talented boys who may not have the pedigree for like a GB fight or anything like that, or ABA champion, but they're still talented. They still could do things in the pro. Their only opportunity is a small hall promoter, and it's down to selling tickets. And if you don't sell a ticket, you don't get on.
Yeah. And if you don't sell enough, you'll get dropped down in rounds.
Yeah.
So the amount of time someone's going to do an 8-rounder and they drop down to a 4-rounder because they only sold X amount. What is the solution to it? Do you think maybe having someone like Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren focus more on the small hall shows more often? Do you because more money obviously needs to be passed down?
Maybe that could be.
Maybe there's some sort of, is there perhaps a levy or something that the board can put on them that is then fed down to the grassroots level of professional boxing? I don't know.
Ben Shallam's pretty good, obviously taking on Boxer. I think the more competition with bigger promoters brings more opportunity for fighters. So having someone like Boxer come out of nowhere it's that's positive.
Well,
Yeah,
Steve
it's good.
Goodwin's managing to start feeding some of his fighters through to that. So that's a good avenue.
And then just being on Sky every week, it doesn't have to be pay-per-view. Just getting them on Sky every week, getting them seen.
Just getting their faces out
No,
there.
it would,
And that.
I remember like years ago when Sky first started, they used to have an American show called Fight Night at the Forum, and it was small hall shows, and you was watching, and some of the fights were quite, not quite good. They were very good, and you'd never, I used to write some of the names down and then try and find out where. Then never got anywhere, but it was good. So Sky could do a Steve Goodwin show on a Friday night. Go up north, do one there. Go down to I think Plymouth. They have some shows on down. Move around. Start to show that there are other small hall and there are other fighters who are good, given the profile, could get better, and do it that way.
And the audience knowing that these aren't world champions, but they're at their level and they're going to put on a good performance. That's all that matters.
Well, you'll get
celebrating
proper
British boxing.
people who appreciate boxing, right? Because let's face it, a lot of people go to boxing because they want to see a knockout.
Casuals, yeah.
That's it. They go in. I was quite. You don't where you're in the dressing room, you don't notice it, but when you actually, I can remember going to Nassim versus Billy Hardy, and the Eminem was empty, and then suddenly, because they're all in the bars, and then the main event comes on, they all come in, watch it, and they all disappear again, and you get. I think if you had the small hall on the TV, it would be for the purist people that like watching the technical side of boxing and understand the hard graft of boxing. It's not all glitz, earning hundreds and thousands of millions of pounds. It's sometimes you're earning you have to sell.
Sometimes
you're earning 150 quid or something because you haven't sold. You've only sold just about enough tickets and a little bit more. And that's something that could possibly go ahead. Just spin it around the country. I've had some. I was involved with Dylan Draper, a journeyman, and you go up north and where was we? Manchester in a small. What a great show that was. Stoke. That that was a real great venue. It was very similar to York Hall, not without the balcony. It was a town hall. What a great atmosphere, Stoke. So there's places out there that are generating such a great atmosphere, and that would generate across the TV,
and the media coverage. You get the main events of these guys, and let's say you just put together 50-50 fights. That's what people want to see as well. You don't want to see journeyman against obvious winner for the whole card. So if you had 3 to 5 50-50 fights that are bigged up every week, then it doesn't matter what standard it is. People are going to be excited. It's going to be a war. It's going to be close. You don't know what's going to happen, the anticipation. And to have the media coverage of these people before, getting their personalities out there.
It'd be great.
Letting them know, I train at this gym. I wake up at 5 every morning. I have a coffee. This is my rest day. I'll go play golf. Show it. Show what they do. And then when people see that for the week, and they tune in online, by the time they're watching the fight, you've bought into that guy or girl.
You know them. You feel like you know them. You've invested. Do you know what I mean?
Or realise that a boy, let's just say, who's at area level, is getting up, going for a run, and then going working as on a building site all day, and then
Showing
going to training at night time and show what the reality is. It's not glitzy glam.
You know what? I'd rather watch that more than a world champion training for his fight right now, because you know what they're doing. You know what they're doing. You've already seen them in the gym every day. You're onto something there. I'd love to start shooting stuff like that. For sure. And fingers crossed that the shows keep coming, because the one like last week, if there's more of those regularly, then they do need more. Into Boxing, they were doing the live coverage. That's why we couldn't film. But they were filming quite a lot, and they've actually sort of been a bit better than watching Matchroom with all this rubbish going on. So there's other avenues. It's just trying to push it out there, really. And then obviously back to trans boxing and things. for you guys right now, trying to get the reputation of it and to build a platform. Like,
Well,
you've got the community there. You just now need to get that first show.
For me, for me, it's not even the trans boxing. Like, I know we've spoke a lot about it. Me personally, in my life and my route, I fight men. I fight normal born men like yourselves. So that's my route. I do the LGBT stuff because I am trans and I'm aware of how hurt I was through my life without being involved in activities and sports that I wanted to be involved in. So I use my character and my story to open up the doors for other people, just because I'm so aware there is loads of people like me. There is loads of trans people. We exist. It's not a fashion. It's not a decision. We're born like it. And I believe that everyone should be able to take part in some sort of sport. But for me personally, I'm going the Sparta route. And we're going to carry on with our shows, aren't we? I've got my next fight in December. We had a look at the fella yesterday. I'm looking forward to. I'm just trying to fight as Danny. I'm definitely trying to create spaces for other trans athletes. 100%.
What advice have you got for these people?
For the athletes or for the watchers?
The trans, both.
Well, for the athletes, for anyone in my position, I say have conversations, walk into gyms, fight your fears, because it's only scary for about 5 seconds. You walk into the gym, you'll be so surprised of how many people are supportive that are not part of the community. These lot in this gym, there's not a gay geezer in the gym, there's not a trans. Until I came and invited people, it was predominantly and it weren't because trans people ain't allowed or gay people ain't allowed, it's just that's how it was. And if I can get welcomed, other people will be able to get welcomed. So we just keep telling our story and hope that other gyms, now for the watchers for other gyms, for other sponsors, for other nutritionists, for other people that are heavily set in their jobs, to maybe give a trans athlete a chance. Because like we just said about women's boxing, in 10 years' time, there's going to be a division. There will be a division, and I strongly believe that.
I'm sure in the Olympics and stuff, there will be at some point.
And that's what we're aiming for change. I'm trying to normalise the whole trans thing. People run away from what they don't understand. And I get that people don't understand trans people. I do get it. But we are alive and we do exist. And I don't think that we should be closing doors on trans people just because we think, oh, you're tranny, or do you get what I mean? Like, we're still people. There's all sorts online. You get that one person that people want to make a statement out of, that one bad egg, like you would get in anywhere else. Yeah.
And for that reason, it's tarnished as well.
Stigma.
There is. And to break that and to just realise you're a regular person.
We're just people. If I didn't tell you, if I didn't reach out when I see you shout and explain my story, you wouldn't have known that I was trans. No, you wouldn't have known I was trans.
I wouldn't
I've got quite a good trans radar, by the way.
But I just live as a normal geezer.
I just, I don't.
You don't think of people
we was out for the run. I'll say.
Go.
So we're out for a run. All right, we're in the middle of we're running up here, and he goes, "Oh, I'm dying to go to the toilet." So I said, "Well, piss up a tree then." So he goes, "Well, I can't, can I?"
Fuck
I mean,
off, Steve.
what do you mean? What do you mean you can't? Like, piss up a tree? Yeah. Well, I can't. And I went, "What?" And they're like, "Oh yeah."
So have you not got a?
I've not got me willy yet. No, Daddy no.
Yeah, so and I'm like looking at him, thinking, "What are you talking about?"
We have
you
a laugh,
cunt?"
don't we?
Yeah.
We do have a laugh.
That's good though, because the amount of groin shots you'll take in boxing, it's pointless having one, to be honest. There's nothing worse than a shot to the nuts.
I still wear it just for effect. just so I feel
just to give him that false confidence.
To Dan's credit, we're running on every so many Saturdays a trans session. We
do it for the families.
We've got. He reached out to a young lad called Grayson, 12 years old, Wolverhampton. His dad and family travelled down from Wolverhampton.
Dad messaged me.
Yeah. For
That's
advice.
nice to hear.
Jesse from Canvey Island.
Yeah, Jesse.
He's 16
years old.
Comes and trains. We had Gil
we've got Jill, who's a French trans fella. We've got Zach.
Zach just started coming.
Got little Bailey coming new this week. My friend's little trans son.
It's good that there's a community.
And what was good, they came in and they was were a little bit apprehensive, you know.
They're only young, some of them. Do you know what I mean?
And now, it's fun for them, and for me, money couldn't buy that. You know, I look at them and they're just having a good time. We don't
charge them, mate. We don't charge them, do we?
And they are decent, boxing wise.
Yeah.
They each, you know, they've come in.
They've got little arms and legs, mate. Do you know what I mean? They can do it.
They are boxing. We're not playing it. We're training them properly.
Yeah.
And they're
little Jesse got in with you the other day, didn't he?
Yeah, and we had to move around.
Yeah.
And
16 years old.
Progressing. Jess, I called him the silent assassin because he never said anything. He just sort of looked, didn't he? Now he's
coming out of himself.
Now he's having a.
It must be so good to see them grow as a person.
And laugh. And now, obviously, I don't want to isolate. So we started off with that group, and that's grown. What I'd like to do next is maybe bring them in earlier, so they maybe catch the last 45 minutes when the gym's full.
So we can get them in with
and
the
they feel a
sessions with
bit more
everyone else.
comfortable, and then just fully in, because I didn't want to smash them straight into, you know, and them being a little bit, you know, our gyms, you know, there were some characters.
Yeah, we've got a funny old gym.
You know, so I wouldn't want to do that. And
but they've been great.
It's good, and it's growing. And I say Zach came last week, and I took him another session this week, and you know, I said to him, I'm actually not just loving training. Yeah,
impressed.
I'm impressed. I'm impressed by you, sort of thing. You know, so we're Dan has opened up a door for people, and Dan should take a lot of credit for that.
Oh, thank you. We've got a documentary team as well working with us doing our story. We've got about 6 documentary teams that's gone onto us. We've picked one, but we've also obviously expressed that the families and the kids come down, because I feel like that's something so cool for these kids. They can go, oh, watch me on the telly, or watch me on Channel 4, or whatever we end up on.
And the story, and we don't want trans boxes.
No.
We want Dan's story of his anguish, anxieties, desires, everything that he had to fight for to get.
I was an upset child, man. I was so upset as a kid.
This comfortable area that he feels comfortable coming into a gym as Dan. Mm-hmm. And hopefully
I'm the only one with my top
rest.
off and that, and I don't. Oh, they make me feel so comfortable. It would be stupid for me not to welcome others in, you know, and get to feel what I feel off of them. It's magic in there, mate. In the gym, it's magic. I go there now like it's a youth club. You know, like when you're young and you used to go up to the youth club with your mates. That's what I feel like now.
That's what our country's been missing anyway, with all the cuts. So I think what you guys are doing is amazing.
No, thank you so much, and thanks for having us, man.
Yeah, it's all right. It's been a pleasure having you on, and I look forward to catching up with you guys. I'll probably come down for your fight as well in December.
I'd love you to. Yeah, that'd be wicked.
Nice one.
We'll get you
Cheers.
some tickets.
Brilliant.